and welcome to GenFriends. I'm your host, Cheri Hudson Passey from Carolina Girl Genealogy, and fabulous panel and a special guest again tonight. We've got Dan Earl-Family History Guy. Hey, Dan.
Hello.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Laura Hedgecock from Treasure Chest of Memories is here. Hey, Laura.
Hi.
Always good to see you.
Thank you. And it's still light out. This is
I know. Woohoo! Summer is approaching. And we have Melissa Barker, aka the Archive Lady, and her blog is an genealogist in the archives. So she writes fabulous, fantastic things, as do all of the panel. They're fabulous researchers and fabulous writers. But continuing our series with relative race, we have invited the head genealogist for relative race, Tristan Tolman, and so she's joining us here to have us ask all sorts of questions about how things run on relative race. So hey, Tristan, so good to have you here.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
We, of course, we love the show, and so we have to get on and talk about it and, kind of throw our opinions on what maybe is going to happen and things like that. But I would like to ask you, what does that mean? What do you do? You're the head genealogist. Does that mean you clear all the teams for, what do you do? Just tell us what you do.
Okay. So the way it works is we get lots and lots of teams that apply to be on relative race, and they go through a casting process where they are interviewed multiple times by some of the producers and the unit production manager, and they go through and learn about the teams. Who are you looking for? Who are you racing with? What is your relationship? What is your dynamic? And really get to know them. Mm-hmm. They do that for lots of teams. And when they decide that a team is of great interest to them, then it comes to me. And so then I start doing research to see what are we looking for? Who are we looking for? How realistic is it that we're going to find who we're looking for? And just kind of learn as much as we can. And we kind of do some preliminary research at that point. So we're mm-hmm. researching a lot of different teams at that point, and still kind of narrowing down the candidates that are going to be on the race. But as we get closer and closer, that research amps up even more and more as we really start investing a lot of time into those teams. And really what we do is we build a customized research team for each team that we're researching, if that makes sense. And so they'll have different needs. For example, if we have somebody who has ancestry in a particular area, we may need an archivist or a librarian, or we may need a research specialist in a specific place. We may need
like raising our hands. Remember us? No, just kidding. We would kill to do something for the show. Go ahead.
And so we kind of just see what do we need, what are we looking for, and who can help us, and then as we continue researching, then those who are in the position to make decisions are continuing to make decisions. And so it just the research becomes a really important part of the decision-making process, but that's not the only thing, obviously, that they're looking for. And so then they will eventually select the teams that they are going to cast onto the show. And then at that point, my job is still very busy because we're still doing a lot of research, still trying to narrow down who these people's biological families are. And then my job is also to call those families once we find them and if they would be interested in getting to know their missing relatives.
Oh,
that's got to be an interesting part of the job, cold calling people like that,
Yeah.
Wow.
It is an interesting, and honestly, it's almost sacred. In a way. I don't know another word, but like you share a moment with someone who it just is so special because there's a lot of emotion there. In some cases, they know that they have a child out there. In some cases, they don't. But in all cases, they're surprised to get the phone call.
Well, I'll bet.
And so you really get to share a special moment with these people that we're looking for. And so, yeah, it's a real privilege.
Well, I'm thinking, not only are you calling to tell them your DNA has matched with a son, a daughter, a brother, or sister, whatever it may be, but then you're going to say, and they're on a TV show, and can they come to your house, and will you let them spend the night?
Right. Yeah.
Inside the house.
Inside the house, unless you're going to camp, right? So,
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine the reactions that you get. Do you get people that think it's like a scam, or are they generally interested? By now, you would think that a lot of people had heard of the show, at least, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually really cool because I'm finding that to be more and more true. As I reach out to relatives, they'll say, "Oh, I know about this show," or, "Oh, I've heard of that before." "Oh, and they've seen it, heard it talked about, or whatever." And so that's nice. But yeah, it's, there still are people out there who have not heard of it or seen it before. And so definitely I have the opportunity to tell them about the show and what it is that their relative is trying to do, and get to kind of explain that to them. And we encourage them to watch past episodes so that they know what the show is about and understand what we do and what we don't do. And then, and I just talk to them a lot too, and help them understand, this is really something that it can be a real gift for you and your family.
Sure.
We want to make this a wonderful experience for everybody involved.
That's I can't even, what a wonderful job you have. I mean, you really do. You have a wonderful, wonderful job to be able to reunite these families, and in such a way, and we talked about this season after season, in such a way that's uplifting to both sides. It's not Maury Povich. It's it's not after sensationalism. It's all about love and family, and I think that's why the show has been such a hit with people. I think that's why we cry every.
Yeah, it's true. It's very genuine. People are genuine. Our teams are very genuine, and the relatives. What you see is real. It's very real.
Well, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to see what this panel wants to ask you before we actually talk about day 5. But so you're going in and you're investigating these stories and seeing what kind of records you can get, and if you've got a story to tell, if you've got enough to tell. So then how do you choose who's going to be on what season? Do you kind of balance out who's looking for whom, or teams that you feel like would go well together? How does that work?
So, I mean, honestly, those decisions are not my decisions to make. So that would be a really good question for you to ask, like our unit production manager, for example, because they're the ones that actually make those decisions of which are used on which seasons. I think that they do consider all of those things that you mentioned, like, what is the dynamic between the different teams? I mean, I would imagine that they would consider all that, but that's not something that I really am a part of. I just give them all of the research, and I tell them about the families that were, that we found, and then they kind of take it from there.
And they take it from there. So do you ever say, "Hey, I think this is really good. You should put these guys on the show"?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely tell them, we've got some awesome relatives. I mean, and I'll tell them about, I tend to get to know the relatives better than the team themselves.
Oh, okay.
Because those are the people that I'm talking to, and I'm on the phone and getting to know the families. A lot of times the family is working really closely with me for a long time as we're all trying to figure out how the adoptee might fit into the family. And they're invested and I'm invested, and we're all friends trying to figure it out, and so I'll give them, the producers and others, that information, and let them know what, these relatives really care, and they're really excited, and they, and that makes a difference too. If we've got relatives that are really genuinely excited to meet their family member, then I mean, we're interested in that because we want it to be positive for everybody,
And that comes across as we're watching. We can tell, we can tell as we're watching. Yeah. So great job. Okay, panelists, what you got? Go ahead, Laura.
What I'm really curious about is, because we look for long dead people, and I'm sure that looking for current day relatives is quite different. So What part of your toolbox is a genealogy toolbox, and what is kind of a private detective toolbox with current day records and things like that? And how do you figure all that stuff out? And yeah, that's the question.
That's a really good question. I would say there's a really good mix of what I do. I mean, I do a lot of genealogical research because we have to take the DNA, which a lot of times that's all we have, especially if there's a closed adoption. All we know is what their DNA is showing us. And so we have to build out the trees of their DNA matches and try to figure out, you know, who are these people's ancestors, and then bring the tree forward and figure out, like, okay, well then, if these are the ancestors, who are all of the descendants that are potential candidates to be the parent that we're looking for? And we just kind of start going through and looking, and, you know, who was in the right area and who's the right age and who fits the description and all of that. And that process is very genealogical in nature. But then, of course, as we get closer to finding the people that we're looking for, then we definitely switch into private detective mode. And, you know, we're doing a lot of trying to find, if we have a relative that we need to get a hold of, whether it's a parent or a sibling, or maybe it's a second cousin DNA match that I really, really need to talk to. But then we've got to try to figure out, how do I get a hold of this person? Is it, you know, I've got to find the phone number. Okay, not a working phone number. All right, do we write them a letter? Do we find them on social media? How do we reach out and make contact and try to figure out how to reach these people? And so, yeah, definitely there's a combination of both of these things, and they're kind of, you're kind of doing both of them off and on the whole time.
Okay, yeah, going back and forth with each lead.
Yep, exactly. And then honestly, like, there's a third element of what I do too, which is just the actual making of the phone calls, where you just need to be able to make friends with people, you know, and talk to them on the phone and let them know, like, that I genuinely care about them and I genuinely want them to have this gift in their life, and tell them, you know, they need to be able to trust me and trust us, that we are going to tell their story in a way that they will be happy with. And so there's relationship building that has to happen there too.
Now, how many people do you ever get that say, hey, I want to meet this person, but I'm not comfortable with the TV element?
That's a good question. And that does happen on occasion. And so, you know, a lot of times when that does happen, we will just talk to them about, well, here's what it would mean for you, you know, to be on television. And this is what would, so that they can really feel like they would know what to expect. And that helps them. And also watching past episodes is very helpful for them, so they can see. And, you know, we have also offered to, in some cases, let them talk to people who have been on the show before, so that they can see what it's like from that angle, and say, you know, you've got some questions you may want to pass on to this person who has been through what we're asking you to do. And so we make a lot of things like that available just to help them. But again, I mean, I would say that it's not like something that happens all the time. But every once in a while, that is a concern that we need to work through. And it usually, I think we are able to work through that successfully, because they realize by this time we're friends, you know, and they can honestly ask their questions, and they can see, because they are watching the show, they know exactly what to expect.
Exactly. Melissa, you said you have a question?
Yeah, I'm an archivist. I work in a county archive in Tennessee, and I'm also a professional genealogist. I don't know when the work was done on this last episode, but during this last year with COVID and with a lot of our archives and facilities closed, how have you been able to facilitate getting research done?
It has been challenging for us, just like it's been challenging for everybody. We have been really fortunate in that, even though a lot of the archives and libraries that we need access to are closed to the public, a lot of them are offering lookup services.
Yes.
And so when we contact them and they say, well, you know, you can't come here, but if you let us know what you need, we're happy to look for that for you. And there just are some fantastic archivists and librarians that I feel have really just gone above and beyond trying to make the records available when the rest of us can't access them. So we're just so grateful to all of you who do that.
That's great that I hear you say that, because it's one of my mantras during COVID has been telling everyone, yes, the building is closed, but there's a lot of them still out there that are taking requests and fulfilling them as best as they can, even if it takes them a while. So that's great to hear.
Thank you for doing that.
Dan?
Yeah, so for us as genealogists, part of the fun of watching the show is sort of picking apart and trying to think of how the genealogists behind the scenes would have done it. What's it like being the genealogist behind the scenes? And so how the sausage is made. Like, what's it like for you watching the show?
What's it like for me watching the show?
Yeah, assuming that you watched the show.
So I cried through the whole thing. It's like, even though I know what relatives they're going to be meeting, I cry anyway, because it's like, I don't know, it's emotional for me, just like it is for those who don't know what's going to happen, because it is so sweet.
Well, and I'm assuming that you haven't seen all the footage, and so a lot of that, who they're going to meet, but you haven't seen them actually meeting. Is that right? Or have you seen all that footage ahead of time?
So in some cases, I am invited to go and preview the shows, and it's more of a meeting where they're looking and to make sure that all of the all the things that they look for are exactly the way that they want them, and
Mm-hmm.
and I have had the opportunity to attend those in the past, so sometimes I do get to see.
That's great, though. It really probably doesn't matter how many times you see it, because there's some episodes that, in my mind, if I see over again, I cry. If I go to a conference and say Dan is talking about relative race and he shows some clips, I cry. I've seen it a lot. I've seen these clips so many times, but they still get to me every time. Every time. Melissa.
I'm kind of late to the relative race game. I kind of didn't watch it until last season.
We had to pull her in.
Yeah, you did, because I'm not I consider it kind of a reality TV show, and I don't watch reality TV. But anyway, I watched last season and I watched this season, so it's really been good. But I've been a bit surprised by how many of the relatives that are found, and they get to meet the relatives that are genealogists.
Yeah.
I can remember an instance of one giving them a big family tree, a rolled family tree. I mean, even in this instance, even in this season, I forget which team is it that got the family tree from one of their relatives. And so
I'm trying to, but yeah. Well, and then Andre Kearns was on last season, and he speaks at
Yes, him. He was the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Okay. He was for Blue Team. Yeah.
So how often do you find that when you get in contact with these relatives that they're genealogists and that, they've already been doing the research?
Sometimes we do find that. And part of the reason for that is because one of the tools that we use to find these families is DNA. And a lot of people who take a DNA test are interested in their family history. And that's one of the reasons they take a DNA test. Mm-hmm. And so we know that just having somebody who is in the DNA database and putting their information out there and putting a tree out there that we are able to use to try to find connections, we're able to say, okay, this person is interested in family history, clearly, because they've built a tree and they're doing their own research. And we value that a lot, because it shows just by doing that they have an interest in family.
Yeah. And they're probably easier to contact and talk to as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's easy because you can message them on, Ancestry or whatever. Mm-hmm. and it's great. It's great. And it's cool because we're able to use lots of different relatives, but it's always nice when you can find a relative who has already shown an interest in what we're doing.
Well, I know that one of our panelists that couldn't be here tonight, Bernice, has seen a match that she said it was something from Relative Race, and so she's still sitting waiting. She's hoping that you'll call her one day, because she'd really like to, help out and be on the show. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, my husband's niece lives in England, and too late her husband saw an email that came from Relative Race about a match, and too late. It was months after, and it was just too late to do anything about it. So they're a little bit bitter, but it was not your fault. It was their fault for not seeing the email. So, so I know that, you reach out to people, and people are excited. People that watch the show, I think most of us are hoping that maybe one day you'll contact us about something. So
I love it. Well, it's so great. There really is a community of people who put their DNA out there, and they're not adoptees, they're putting their DNA out there, and they're putting their tree out there to help someone else. And it's so amazing when people do that, where I have had people on occasion say, well, why should I take a DNA test? I already know who my family is. And obviously there's a lot you can learn, even if you already know who your family is, by taking a DNA test, but just the option to help someone else who doesn't know who your family is.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, it's amazing, those of you who have done it and are seeing relative race matches on your match list. Thank you for doing that, and just putting DNA out there and making it easier for those to find their families who are looking.
Oh, that's great. Well, we probably ought to start talking a little bit about the show. And oh gosh, day 5. I can't believe we're at day 5. We are at day 5. So
halfway there.
And of course, we've all got soft spots for everybody on every team. The boys, oh my gosh, blue team. Oh my gosh, they are something else. And here they had this head start. They start out the day, they had gotten the ability from the day before to know where they're going, to map it out. And as they're sitting there getting ready to leave their relative's house, she's talking to them about her phone. And she's, talking about how she wants that phone fixed because it's got pictures of her mom. And so they decide that since they've got a head start, they know where they're going, they are going to find a phone store and get her phone fixed. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that's your time. Wait till the end of the race. Wait until, do it then. But no, they wanted to do it that day. And I thought that was just the most amazing, generous thing, because not only, well, it ended up costing, I don't know if that particular thing ended up costing them, but
I wonder too.
Yeah. But, they felt so good about what they did. And, so they had kind of this wonderful day where they helped her, and then they got to where they were going after a little bit of arguing in the car, which they seem to do a lot with their brothers, right? Brothers do that.
Yes.
And then they get to their relative's house, and it's their aunt, and she's their mom's sister. And that was amazing. That was amazing that y'all were able to make that connection with her, and that they got some answers. They got some photographs. And the one thing that got me was, and you guys probably, those of you guys that know me well, got me was that they learned a different scenario about their mom, that she had signed the paperwork, but their adoptive parents had told them that she had just given them up. And I'm sitting back there going, it can both be the same. It can be true. Both can be true, because I'm an adoptive mom of foster kids. And the same could be true. She may have signed that paperwork. That doesn't mean it didn't kill her to sign the paperwork.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? And so, and another thing is, I wanted to tell people is, the adoptive family coming out of these kids with foster care isn't always told the truth. So we find out a lot of things later about our kids that they knew, that the social workers knew, but they didn't share that information. So
I'm confused because I thought they said something I didn't understand. I thought they said that she had some mental health issues, and that's why she had to give them up. Was that not the correct understanding?
I don't know that it actually said that is why she had to give
but
them. They did say
that
she did have mental issues.
Right.
They didn't really say that's why, but they did say she had mental issues.
Yeah.
Oh, because they said something about it almost destroyed her from that point on, that she never recovered.
Yeah.
Recovered and having the boys taken.
That it was not really a choice, even if it was technically a choice.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't have a choice, but it makes me wonder, and I don't want to dig down into this, but it just makes me wonder why nobody in the family, like the aunt, took them in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody was in probably certain situations at
Exactly.
the time. You just
Absolutely.
don't know.
Absolutely.
But at first, because it's funny because the aunt, when the first reference that she made to her sister, their mom, she made it in a past tense.
She did.
know,
But then the more she talked, and then we find out, I mean, you could tell by the way she said that she's still living. Now, I don't know if those boys will get to see her on camera because of
distant smiling. She knows one way or the other, but she can't tell us. So.
No, I know. But I get the feeling that maybe we're not going to meet her because of her issues, which is understandable.
If she is like what I would call a vulnerable adult, you would not.
No, you wouldn't put her on camera and things like that. So, but I'm glad they're getting some answers.
Yes.
I'm really glad they're getting some answers, but I'm hoping I hope they're not feeling like we were lied to, because I don't believe that they were actually lied to. I think circumstances may have just been different than what everybody was told at the beginning. And so I think that's probably what was going on. But I'm so glad that they actually met somebody a little closer than just a first cousin.
I
know. We were getting so worried about them because it's first cousin. Surely there's more to their story than just first cousins.
Well, first cousins are actually really close.
Well, I know, but you know what I'm saying? We're looking for moms and dads and grandmas and
siblings,
brothers and sisters. So.
One of the things that I love most about what we've seen so far with Team Blue is the growth in Team Blue.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that we've seen that as they have started being able to hear their story from those first cousins and now from an aunt, that they have been able to find some peace. And I think that we've seen them grow as adults. And I just think we see always that the team goes on a journey, and the team, whoever it is, they grow. But I think with this Team Blue in particular, it's just really palpable. Like,
I agree.
Oh yeah.
And it's just, I love it. It's one of my favorite things about this season is that that these young men are they are changing in a really nice way as they evolve and grow.
Right. You can see it in their faces. Their whole countenances, they're different than that first day. So I absolutely agree with you. It's fun to watch them as they connect and they learn their story. It's just beautiful to watch them and watch who they are. They just seem to be such good people. So is there another team you guys want to jump to and start talking about?
Let's talk about Green.
Yeah, let's talk about Green. Go ahead, Laura. What do you want to say?
Because I looked at Monica and she saw this girl and she said, she looks just like me. And I'm like, she's blonde.
I know. I thought she just looked anything like her.
Herself and her sister.
Yeah, she saw herself. And that's such a good point. Yeah.
That was so cool that she's like, I know who you are.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. And the fact that the sister had remembered, the family had remembered her. You know, they hadn't forgotten her, and that she'd made that ring for her mom when she was 12 that had her birthstone in it. I was like, oh my.
That was crazy.
That was super sweet.
I'm really hoping that we can get to the story. Then why was she put up for adoption? I'm hoping.
Why?
I know.
Let's forget the challenges.
I want to know why. I want to know why. So I'm hoping that we'll get to that, because I think she needs to know that. And even if it's something that we don't get to see, it's something private that's given to her later, I hope she gets those answers, because I think that's going to help her. So what do you know, Tristan? Can you tell us? No, you don't. I know you can't.
Well, I would like to ask Tristan, though, when she's done the research and she has found these relatives, and then, I mean, I'm assuming you don't see them meet except for so you watch the show, and then how rewarding is that for you to actually see them actually meet, and then what transpires?
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, it's just it's so emotional to see it finally happen, and I wish that we had that same opportunity with our own ancestors, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And listen, I don't know how you found the foster mom. but I'm glad you did it. And I know there was
Oh, that was awesome.
yeah, and we talked about this last week. There were some people like, oh, that wasn't a DNA match, blah, blah, blah. No, that was family. The point of the show is family, but you get to family through the DNA.
Grandma Marge is fantastic. She is a key player in that story for a lot of
Oh, yes.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
mother and the daughter. And I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't tell that story without her.
No, you couldn't. And
Well,
the
and that who went to her to find out?
sister that
The
she met,
sister.
yeah. She went and tried to get
And she
information
didn't
from her.
get answers out of her.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that it was explained that she was respectful of the adoptee and said, you know, that it needs to be on the adoptee's terms. And I thought it said a lot about Grandma Marge and her ability to respect confidences and choices.
Right. That whole process, the whole adoptive process, she was respecting. You know, she didn't want to do anything to rock the boat, you know, for either the parents, the adoptive parents, you know, Monica, anybody. So that must have been hard, though, to have the sister, you know, come and keep trying to dig for answers and her having to say, no, no, no. That must have gotten to her heart, too. She couldn't say anything. So this must just be a thrill and a joy for her as well to, you know, to see these connections. So and then we had Team Black with their war paint coming on. And I know people got upset with that, but they're just, in my mind, they're just playing. But when it's still a show too. It's a game show as well. You want to win that money. You want to come in first. So of course it's going to go, at first, you know, I'm sure it was probably like, oh my gosh. But I've seen a lot of them talking on social media and they're just messing around. They just, you know, editing can make things seem like anything, right?
But she met her brother.
Yes, another brother and red beard.
Yes.
that red runs strong in that family, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I found it a bit odd though, because I mean, I'm not a camper. And so he pulls out a tent and he says, we're going to go camping. And I'm like, that's what you do when you first meet, when you're okay.
Well, maybe they didn't have room in the house for everybody. It could be.
Right.
You know?
I
was
don't
thinking
know.
Maybe it was COVID that
I'm wondering.
Oh, wow.
they're out in the air and they're like,
Tristan, did you have trouble getting people to want to do the show because of COVID? Was there problems with people saying, I don't know if I want to meet people, I would do it, but with COVID, I don't know that I want to do it?
Well, COVID was definitely a thing that we dealt with, you know, just like all of you were dealing with it. And we did have some concerns about COVID. The good news is we have very, very strict COVID related safety protocols in place, and we left that. They're even written down, you know, that these are the things that we will do to keep us safe, to keep you safe. And then I think that it helps people to feel comfortable that we were being careful on our end. And in a lot of cases, I mean, just the excitement of knowing that we're going to be meeting this important relative in their life is just, we all needed something that amazing to happen in 2020.
Yes. And you know what, with all the hugging going on, I don't think there was a lot too much concern. Nobody has gone, I can't hug you, but I'm glad to meet you, that we could see anyway, unless they edited that out.
Right.
So it all looked like it was all good. So
I'm sure there was a lot of testing going on before there was a lot of hugging going on.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I bet so too.
And then there's Team Red. Oh my gosh, she's just so, meeting her brother, that was just that coolest thing. And of course they all look alike. I just love that Liz looks like her siblings. And I love the fact that so far, we're just seeing the show, and the first time they meet, that it's working, that they're getting along, that they're talking, and nobody is, who knows what it'll be like now or 6 more months down the line if everybody's still okay. But she had said when she first found out that she had siblings that she just could see them being the best of friends. And so I was a little worried. I was a little worried because sometimes that doesn't work that way. So, and then I love the fact that she said, or Devin was saying, how does meeting our biological family affect our adoptive family? And it was so wonderful. It's just more people to love, more people to bring into that circle, and just more growing. And I thought that was beautiful.
Well, wasn't it? I don't think it was the last episode. I think it was episode 3 when the adoptive parents actually spoke. And I can't remember which team that was.
It was Green. It was Green.
Team Green's, yes, her adoptive parents, when they actually had them sitting down, like, and spoke.
Yeah.
That was very interesting.
And I just love the fact that the show has done that this year, shown that other side of the story, because there is another side of the story.
There is.
And I think it's real important to show that side too, that they had families that loved them and supported them and took care of them. And this is just a way to feel grounding and find out more and to know their whole story. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not saying, adoptive parents, we don't need you anymore. We're going to go find the biological parents. So I really thought that it was just a really good addition to this season. And I really appreciate y'all doing that. It means a lot. And I saw that a lot in social media especially after day 4, when a lot of people were saying, oh my gosh, thank you. On behalf of, foster parents and adoptive parents everywhere. Thank you for showing that side of the story. So thank you, Tristan, for doing that, that y'all did that.
That's really good to hear. And I loved it too. I love that that's being told more, because those of you like you, Cheri, who are an adoptive parent, I mean, my hat is off to you. I mean, it is so great when, we see that when children are placed for adoption, of course, every situation is different, but we find that there's always a reason, right?
Always, right.
And so I just, that the biological parents are trying to do what's best for the child. But I'm so grateful that we have these adoptive parents that will step in and fill that key role and be the parents, and they deserve that honor. And I'm just so grateful, and as I do this work and I get in touch with these biological parents who I just love, I still feel this so much gratitude to adoptive parents who just put their arms around these children and raise them and love them, and they are family. And those you who have adopted a child understand that Grandma Marge's family, it doesn't take DNA to make a family,
right? Yeah.
And it's the love and the bonding, and we're just so grateful to all who come together to do the best thing for that child, whoever that is.
Right.
Yeah, and I have to say, just because I have an adopted niece, that baby was so wanted before we knew whether she was a he or a she or anything about her. Like the whole family was already in love with her. Just we knew, and it's just the same. It's the same miracle that when you have a child, you're going to love it, even though at the time you're going, I'm going to have a kid. How can I be a parent? But you realize you will.
Yeah.
And it's the same magic that. So
Absolutely.
I mean, a biological child versus an adopted child.
There's no difference. Yep, there's no difference. Absolutely, in your heart, there's absolutely no difference. Let's talk for a minute about that challenge. That challenge, at first I looked, that's not going to be that. Oh my gosh, that was hard. That was hard. Liz kept dropping her side. I don't know what was up with her. But
I know.
Dropping everything on her side, and I love that. I love that she was telling Devin to hurry up, and he says, no, gotta have some patience, and it's got to be strategic and not so much about speed. And she goes, oh no, it's about speed. And maybe that's why she kept dropping everything, is because she was trying to hurry too much. And then what about Black Team and they're ripping up the paper towel?
I wondered about that. That was, of course, it must have been legal, but I wondered because they didn't put the whole roll on there. They just put pieces on there, and I thought, can they do that? But they went on, so I thought, okay.
I was really surprised that it made, a piece of paper towel made a difference. I think maybe it helped them avoid having to put the whole roll somewhere.
Yeah.
And they put it places where it didn't make a difference.
Maybe that could be it too. So that was another really, really fun one, I thought was really, and I'm sure that there's probably times when they're doing those challenges where they just want to kind of yell at each other. What are you doing? We're losing so much time, but somehow.
But this one didn't seem like it took as because I know they're cutting and putting things together,
Yeah.
but it seemed like it didn't take as long as the last challenge. It seemingly took forever.
For all of them. And at least they were inside, and so they weren't hot and sweaty. So
Yeah.
that's good too.
They weren't running around. They're pretty much,
Right.
Well, yeah, because if it was outside, can you imagine if the wind blew?
Oh, yeah.
Gosh.
They had to have that inside.
So kudos again to that team on Relative Race that comes up and tests and these challenges. So
Those challenge producers are something else, aren't they?
they
They are
are.
so creative.
They are. And Tristan, take this back. We keep saying almost every show, we need a Relative Race book. The challenges, it needs to be like a family reunion, all these different ideas for games you could play at a family reunion, just Relative Race challenge, something, y'all can name
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Like what's a good name, Laura?
well, we've done it with service projects when we all went virtual, and it was a bingo card. And so you have to do a challenge and then you get that spot.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you can have like a Relative Race challenge bingo card.
Yeah, but we just thought it'd be so much fun to have a book that you could buy, and have all these different and all the different challenges that they've had, and be a family reunion book.
What a great idea.
Isn't that fun? We're trying to promote it, so maybe you can take
Yeah.
it back.
Trying to find a publisher.
These challenge producers, though, I mean, they build these complex things, and I don't know that I would have the skill set running a family reunion to build some of the huge things that they
We
do.
could take some of those ideas and kind of, try to figure out how to do it. Like this balance thing, we could, you could figure out something, a big piece of wood on something, and, just things like that. I think it'd be so much fun to do. So.
That's a really fun idea.
So, and then we have our time when everybody gets together, which I love. I've loved that over the last few years, as they've had that little Zoom meeting at the end, and everybody gets to introduce who they met, and you can just see the other teams just loving and supporting the other team for who they got to meet, and the emotion. And I just think that's wonderful, that's a way to build the teams and build their friendships and all that kind of stuff, because I know they didn't, especially this season, they didn't get to spend too much time together because of COVID ahead of time. So like other seasons past, they've been able to at least do some bonding with that. And so and I know a lot of the seasons, the teams still talk to each other and get together a lot and that kind of thing. And so I'm hoping that this season they'll be able to do that, and I hope there's really not a rift, and I don't think there is, between Team Black and Team Green. I'm sure they're just fine, because they're talking to each other on the different Facebook sites for Relative Race and stuff like that. And so I think it was all just part of the show. But yeah, I'm sure it would feel bad to have somebody give you a penalty and then you end up getting a strike. So and of course Dan, I love how Dan was always it's okay, it's all about family, and I know you got a strike, but you can, tomorrow's another day. It's all about who's going to answer that door, when you knock on the door. And I just can't even imagine what that feels like, to go knock on that door and know that.
Have they knocked on any doors this season? Because I think everybody's running out looking for them and running out of the house as they park the car.
That's a good point. They're all so excited. They're running out to meet them. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the results. Anybody want to?
Black came in first.
Yeah.
Their attitude got him on first place.
Their attitude got him in first place. Yeah.
But didn't they had the shortest, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was only like an hour and something. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so
Still all relative. It's still all relative though. Relative. See what I did there. That was an accidental pun. It's all just because they had an hour doesn't mean they got a head start from anybody else. They factor everything in according to.
I know, but it's just easier on a 4-hour drive to
hurry up, maybe.
But no, it's on a 4-hour to have this problem. Need potty breaks. I can go an hour on a car trip without a potty break.
And I guess you're fresher in the challenge and all that kind of stuff if you don't have to drive as far. But yeah, their day will come. We'll have a longer trip probably, and it'll even out. So, but yeah, I was very happy for them that they came in first. So maybe, you know, they won't hold too much of a grudge and get Team Green off the blacklist, right?
Yeah. Well, Team Green came in second.
Mm-hmm.
So they were happy, very happy about
Yeah,
that.
they're doing well. Yeah, they're doing well.
And then, of course, Team Red came in third, and then Blue Team came in last and got a second strike. So I was really unhappy about that.
Somebody had to. But
I wondered, like you said at the beginning, I wondered if it was because they stopped to do the phone thing.
I wonder.
My
would have
husband
helped.
keeps saying, he keeps mentioning in one of the episodes, the Blue Team mentioned they don't have a car at home and they're not used to driving.
Yes, they did say that, because I thought to myself,
you know, you
I
have
wonder
to
if they
think,
had to get a driver's license to be on the show.
but
They
just
didn't have a
if you're
car at
not
home.
if you're not used to driving, especially not used to driving in other places, it could be more of a challenge.
That's true.
Could be.
And not used to that silly GPS that y'all were so good to give them this
Well,
time.
nobody's used to that. I think they're just not used to listening to your brother. I mean, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And doing what he tells you to do, right? Even though it's so funny.
I could hear my boys having that same fight. Where
Look,
are we going? We're going where I tell you to go, but I want to know where it is. You don't have to know where it is. You can trust me. I can just hear every set of brothers doing that same argument.
It's so funny. So yeah, so unfortunately, you know, we're in that territory now where somebody can get, you know, their third strike next
Well,
week.
the next show, if Blue gets another strike, they're out.
Right. Absolutely. But the best case scenario is for another team to get a strike, you know, do it that way so that everybody gets to stay
We want it
on.
to last as long as possible.
And there have been seasons where that's happened. So let's hope that this is one of those seasons where everybody got to go as far as possible.
So the advantage
I'm willing to bribe somebody.
Yeah.
You're willing to bribe somebody. Well, unfortunately,
I want to see the end of the story with
The blue team.
So
Yeah.
I know. Now the black team got an advantage for the
Yes.
next day. What was it?
yes, they get GPS.
Yes,
but
they
they
do.
can't. But they can't write
The
down
real GPS,
the
I
real
think.
GPS. But they can't write down the instructions. They can just use it and go. And
Yeah.
you got a certain amount of time to use it, so they can't write it down. And I'm wondering why, because I know that a previous season they were looking at somebody got that and they were writing it down really quick. But I think they wrote it down, but maybe missed a step or something because they're trying to write they're trying to write it down so fast. So it's interesting. I like how they kind of each season is a little bit different and the rules and things like that. And so that, you know, you can learn how to use take your selfie on a flip phone. You can learn that at a time. You can there's certain things that you can do at a time, but you never know if they're going to switch something else up on you. So that makes the show fresh every time. Melissa, I'm sorry, what?
Well, we didn't mention it, but was it the black team or the green team? Who was it that had the escort from the two ladies?
It was red.
That was the red
team.
Red
Yes.
team, yeah.
I thought that's cool because
they're such fast learners.
They look like they were out like in the middle of nowhere anyway, and they probably they found it.
That is what they said. They said we're out nowhere in the middle of West Virginia, and then they started playing that scary music. I thought that was hysterical. Like they were.
Yeah, there's only one state that's going to be offended by that.
Really funny. So, and then of course, you know, Team Black tried to do the same thing. Casey tried to ask for help, and they wouldn't even recognize that she was trying to ask them for help.
But as she was driving away, they were rolling their window down. And I thought they're there.
Maybe she left too soon. But anyway, that's just too funny when you.
It was a good episode, but
So cool.
now I'm starting to get scared.
I know, me too. I'm starting to get scared too because I hate it when somebody gets that strike. I don't know if they're going to do a golden ticket this season or not, and I'm sure we can't. Nobody's going to tell us that ahead.
What is a golden ticket?
Remember last year, Team Black got golden ticket, so they got to be on one more episode, and they got to go meet another. Yeah. So I don't know if they're doing that this time or not. I guess we'll find out.
I don't remember. Did they even talk about it before it happened? I don't remember.
I don't remember if they said. I just don't remember. It might have been something Dan announced that day when they got
that day. It may have been.
Yeah. So you know that everybody's probably hoping that this happens, because that was fabulous, because we got to see at least one more relative for them. So
yeah, and that's done as much for people at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because they're gonna get to go, right, Tristan? They get to have all their information. So they could have gone on to meet them. We just wouldn't have seen it. So really, it was a bonus for us because we got to see it. Because we want to see it all, you know. We need to come up with another part of the show where it says they will follow them, and that we'll have a whole show at the end of the relatives we didn't get to see. So one more, it'll be day 11, the outtakes of all
the rejected relatives, let's call it.
yeah, exactly. All the ones that they got to go meet that we didn't get to see.
That would make a really good show after the show. Call it the
would.
Relative Race after the show, and show us all them going and seeing the other relatives that they didn't get, they didn't get to.
Yeah. Okay. So
That'd be
that's
cool.
another idea you can take back.
See? Yeah.
You guys have great ideas.
We're just kind of addicted, so
Just a little.
As long as someone else is carrying them out, we're happy to generate.
Exactly. We can tell, we can give you a whole list and, have somebody go do it. So anyway, I'm sure that all the different after the, where are they now episodes, just because we kept saying we need to have a show to tell us what they're all doing now.
Yeah.
They don't listen to anything we say. It was just a joke, but we kept saying that we need to see where are they now, what's going on with them. So anyway, and so then they did it. So anyhow, Tristan, thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for letting me come. It's fun to talk to y'all.
It's so fun to see your end of it, and see what else is going on behind the scenes and how the show's put together. So that was really great. Thank you so much coming and talking to us, and your input and your thoughts about the things that were going on, especially for day 5. So with that, thanks panel. We will see everybody next time on GenFriends. Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.